Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John. I'm going to head out on this Honda 2025 Honda 450 RL, and I'm going to be able to do some single track today. I'm not going to do a bunch, but I'll do enough single track and trails. It's been raining forever. In fact, I have some clips I'll put in of when I went up when it was really raining hard, muddy, and I had the 450 up there, and I'll try to compare it to the 350 a little bit. From what I already know, 350 doesn't flame out as much. It's a little lighter. I think it's what, 40-50 pounds lighter, depending on how this is configured, how the 450 is configured. Even though they have relatively the same seat height at around 37-ish inches, this, because of the linkage, sags a little more in the rear, so it's easier for me to get to the ground. This has a linkage as well, but it doesn't seem to settle as much in the back, and I do struggle at 5'7" and 30-inch inseam. I find it harder to get to the ground, which isn't a big con for me because most of the time I'm riding and I'm going to try to ride through something. But if you do need to put a foot down, had this root ball that I got stuck on and I had to put a foot down, and I almost dropped the bike because I couldn't. I got to the ground a little later than I would have liked. But anyway, I'm going to go for a ride. We're going to do some trails. I do find this flames out a little bit. It's stock everything. And it does, I idled it up a little bit, which has helped, but I have to ride this more with my clutch rather than with the throttle, or it does want to flame out a little bit if I hit like a log or something. I think I have a clip that I'll include after this. I wanted to kind of give you the summary and then go for the ride, so if you don't want to watch everything else, then you don't have to. But so far, those would be kind of some of the things that I've noticed about the Honda. I love the Honda. It's very torquey, very linear power. I can tell it's going to go through rear tires like a monster because of all the torque. I've got a couple hundred miles on my Golden tire, and it's taking it. It's holding up pretty good, but this bike does make a lot of torque. The horsepower, I think they say 38 rear wheel horsepower on this. It doesn't do it justice. It actually has good pulls, stock form, stock exhaust. I like it quiet. The 350, has mid low end, some low end grunt, not maybe quite as much as a 450, which makes sense. Nice mid range, a nice top end, whereas this likes low end, mid range, and the top end doesn't really need it because it's got so much torque. So far, those are some of my thoughts. This gets around 40 miles per gallon, 45, give or take a little. This bike gets like around 50-ish, give or take, so a little better fuel economy with the 350. 350 is a little more flickable, feels like a dirt bike. On the highway, it revs in 6th gear, but tolerable, but I wouldn't want to go down the highway for hours. With the 350, with my Honda 450, it has some higher gears. 5th and 6th gear are pretty high, and I could run this down the highway for a long time, especially if I had a little windscreen or something. So this bike is very nice the Honda is very nice to ride down the highway, I have to admit. So going down the highway, the CRF 450 RL gets the thumbs up. This gets 2 thumbs up. This gets a thumbs up. This will get you there on the pavement, but I don't like doing any more pavement than I have to with this bike. But that's usually what I do, is not much pavement, so it's fine. So we talked about pavement, talked about fuel economy, higher gear, higher overdrive gear on the 450 as compared to the 350. Suspension, both have great suspension, so I love that. Anyway, I'll think of some more things as we go. Build quality on the Honda is very nice, but I didn't feel it was bad on the 350. So anyway, let's go for a ride. Just a brief comparison between these two bikes, but I really want to talk about how the Honda 450 does on the trail. So let's do that. This exhaust gets so hot back here, and I like the quiet exhaust, so I'm going to leave it for a bit longer. You can see where I touched back here, and I literally melted a hole all the way through my jacket. I think I was sprayed it off when I detailed it out when I got back, and I just was washing around back here, and I must have just touched it for a second, and it melted my jacket. So it gets as hot at the rear exhaust as it does up like by a header. So that's just something to be aware of. Now, if you went to an aftermarket exhaust, that's easy to fix, but for right now anyway, we're going quiet with this bike, so I'm going to leave it. But I know people talk about it getting hot, and they are not kidding. Some single track trails here. Let's try it on this Honda 450. I'm used to doing this with my 350, but here we go. A lot of debris on this uphill section. Giving it the juice here. Lots of debris on the trails, but we're doing fine. Feathering the clutch. Okay, there's a little obstacle up here with a root ball that I always struggle to get up and around, and wow, we went around it. That's great. First gear is higher on this bike. I found myself running first gear rather than going up to first and second like on the 350. And I'm using my clutch as I go uphill and through rocks and things with this. I think if I were to use the throttle, I came up here before and used just the throttle only, and I was getting some flame outs. But when I'm keeping my throttle fairly constant and feathering the clutch, I don't find that I'm getting the flame outs as much, so worth noting. But no, this bike's feeling good. Feeling really good, actually. And the Koso grips were feeling good on this cold day. The Koso MX grips, the smaller ones, they're like regular grip diameter. No, but this bike, I like it on single track more than I thought I would. I don't feel the weight as much as I thought I would either. I do feel it as I slow down, but I don't feel it as much as I thought I would compared to the 350. I could ride this a full day. I'd be a little more fatigued at the end of the day, but I could do it. I could just tell I could definitely do it. Yeah, there's some rocks up here you don't want to hit. Suspension's doing good, brakes feel good. Bike's running relatively cool. Yeah, feeling good. A little highway section we'll pop out to, and yeah, but this bike, it does well. I'm gonna find another section here that has like some, I think there's a tree crossing, and we'll see how it does on that. Tires for the IRC tires for the golden tires, the G333 hard intermediate in the back, and the golden tire 216 in the front, the 9090. And it works great on this bike for these conditions. They dig, they hold up well, okay on the pavement, and you know, get me up some of those trails that I need to do. But they're not a high mileage tire. I don't think that you get thousands and thousands of miles out of them. Here's the 450 going on some trails. It does feel better. It doesn't feel like it's so prone to a flame out with it idled up. I can almost tell if you have it idled down too low, when you give it a blip of the throttle like that, it'll stall out. It'll flame out. But if you have it idled up enough, when you give it a little, see, almost a little blip, it'll rev. Little downhill section here. So that's kind of how I evaluate it. So here I can give it a little blip and it revs instead of just wanting to flame out. But it is predisposed to that, especially if the bike isn't idled up enough. But suspension feels good over all these root drops and things. And there is a nice tree. I'm having to back the bike up, you know, pull it back uphill. And so this is where you feel it. And so like technical maneuvers like this, am I more comfortable on my Husky? Yeah, it's harder for me to reach the ground here. It's just one of those things. Like on my 300 or my 350, I think I just right now take off and hit that, but right now I can't touch the ground over here because there's a rut. And I'm like, man, if my bike flames out as I hit that log, I'm gonna fall over and have a bad day. Something I probably would have tried on my 350, definitely would have tried on my two-stroke 300, but this bike's just high enough to where I was uncomfortable. I have a deep rut over here that's, I don't know, 3 feet below where my back tire is now. I have a log that I needed to jump, and I have a drop-off on the left side. It may not show up on video. And also, On the other side, I've got another drop off and logs I need to dodge, and then a drop off over here. So if I need to dab a foot down, man, it just wasn't gonna happen. And I could have tried it. I almost tried it. And then you got all these root drops here on the other side. I almost tried it, but then in the end, I'm like, man, if this thing flames out or does something I'm not expecting, I'm gonna fall over and it's gonna hurt and damage the bike. So anyway, I chickened out, but just worth noting because, you know, depending on the height of the bike and all those things, you'll make decisions out on the trail. And on a different day, I might have tried this if I was more comfortable, but it's new enough to me that I just wasn't sure of how the throttle and the clutch and all that. I'm just not comfortable with a new bike yet as well. So I'm not saying it's all 450. It's me. A good rider who's comfortable with his bike could pull this off. But just worth noting when you're on the trail, you know, it's a downhill section, hitting a log. It's not a huge one, but just the bike and me still getting comfortable with it, I just decided not to do it. So worth noting. But there's different bikes that I'm comfortable with that I would have tried this obstacle with, and I'm sure it would have gone fine. It might have gone fine with this, but if it didn't, it could have hurt. And I got to go to work tomorrow. So anyway, I know you all have to make those same decisions, but just something to think about. I myself right now. So if I have a problem, man, I'll have to ride out and figure that out myself. So that's mixed in this decision as well. And I can just easily walk this bike over using my clutch. Easily walk it up over that log, that obstacle there. Now I can put the bike down in the rut and I can hop on the bike like it's a low rider. So as a shorter rider, I do that kind of stuff all the time. I put the bike where it's going to be in a place I can get on it and make use of the terrain. Okay, so back on the single track here, or trails, really not single track, but it feels good. I don't feel the weight just when I'm moving along like this. I think you don't feel the weight as much because there is plenty of power on tap here. Plenty of power, plenty of torque, and the suspension's good, so it hides its weight really well. It's just the things, if you come to a standstill and need to start muscling it around, that I'm noticing it. Or probably if I need to make a correction, so if I speed things up, suspension is still hiding the weight really good. Okay, so here's a little log crossing. I'm gonna use the throttle, and I just kind of held the throttle and used the clutch to modulate up and over that, and it was fine. It didn't flame out. But it's worth mentioning, before I idled the bike up, I did that same obstacle, and I tried to do it with the throttle blip only, and it did flame out on me. Oh, that's cool. Definitely following some elk. There's elk feet in the mud. Hooves. Huh, cool. Let's do a few more trails. This bike, it holds up high in the stroke. And there's a lot of debris down. We had high winds, rain, and then high winds, so there's so much debris on these trails. I'm really just kind of being a little more aware. There's a lot of roots up here that are wet. That can be a bit of a problem obstacle on an uphill, so I'm gonna see how it is. It's kind of a creek, so there's roots with water running through it, so I'm gonna see how this feels. Well, not very good without speed. And that was me. I was trying to dodge a branch. Okay, the bike's doing good though. And it didn't flame out. I think idling it up did help. Huh, okay. Lots of branches, things down here. I'm gonna leave the clutch out and modulate with the throttle a little bit, see what that does. Oh man, I could just feel like it would flame out up here, but maybe it won't. First gear is high enough to where you can do a lot of things with first gear. Yep, I'm feathering the clutch to get through some of these road obstacles. I think if I were to leave the clutch out, I'd be stalling. Still figuring out the transmission. You know, whether I run first gear up here or second gear. So here's first, here's second. Second's a little high, back to first. Little uphill section. First is actually high enough to work pretty well. Definitely feathering the clutch to keep it smooth through here because of the throttle is very kind of on-off. I'm sure mapping could fix that. Fuel mapping with the ECU. I have plans to do that. Working with Takamoto on that. Getting a get ECU, but we're working that out. Yeah, I'm not feeling the weight of this bike, just a little bit. And I think the suspension, good brakes, power, ground clearance, all that is helping this bike hide its weight. It's just for when I slow down suddenly or get off the bike and have to muscle it around, I start to notice it a little bit. So if you're moving, you're really not going to notice it. I do like this on trails. I mean, this had to be my only bike. I think I could do it. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Kind of standing up, just feathering it through some of this stuff. A little bit of clutch modulation to keep it smooth. Yeah, feels good though. Yeah, so far this bike is hiding its weight well. I'd be curious, you know, you can lose quite a bit of weight with the exhaust. I've heard 8 pounds at least. So I'd be curious what that felt like. I'm gonna try some other trails to kind of keep comparing how this feels compared to like my 350. Initial test, and I like to do it. To ride it is a way of testing how bikes do. A lot of branches down today. I hope it's clear enough I can ride it. A lot of branches down, but 450, I'm able to really navigate through everything just fine. And second gear is high. I could see where you could run down a tooth or two if you were gonna on the rear sprocket if you were gonna do mainly trails. But one thing about the current gearing is it's nice because you can do first. First will do what you need it to do. Okay, so here I am back to first, little uphill. Some erosion, roots and rocks and the things you'd expect up here. Going uphill. Special test, the trail special test. Staying on the throttle, really feathering the clutch. I can kind of do what I need to do. Except there, I got off track. I need to keep the bike moving. Yep, we're good. Got it moving again. It didn't flame out. That was all me. I picked a line that I thought would be better, and it was worse. And yeah, no, it's doing fine. Actually, doing great. Some down branches, feather our way through those. Does fine. Heard a branch crack. I hope I didn't get it caught in the spokes. Take a quick look. I don't think I broke a spoke. Just kind of dancing by some branches that were sticking out and hoping I didn't get caught in the wheel. I don't think so. I don't think I did. Okay, good. The throttle, it's not bothering me as much. So for what that's worth, it just isn't. It feels good on roads and gravel roads. It's just when I'm in town trying to go like 20 miles an hour behind someone that I notice it. So I think again that's where the fuel controller or mapping would come in to be useful. But stuff like this, it doesn't bother me. I can use my clutch, feather the clutch as I need to, and it's working good. And the suspension holds up in the stroke nice. I'm very comfortable riding this. It does feel like a 450 on the trails with the horsepower is a little more suited for a dual sport, torque and so forth. Yeah, here's a little more trails, a little uphill. Slipping into second, feeling good. Bike's holding its line right where I put it. Liking it. A little water crossing. Got some twisty trails here. First gear, just bike feels good. Yeah, maybe a little more weight to deal with when I'm really switching side to side, back and forth. If I were trying to follow a light 250 through here, might not be able to keep up. Yeah, just using the clutch, first gear, second gear, a lot of first. Yeah, it feels, I don't know, I like it. Back to first, uphill. Once in a while, I'll get thrown and I feel the weight when I try to make that correction compared to like lightweight dirt bike, but it's not bad. I like that I could come up and do it and not uncomfortable. Yeah, no, it's feeling good through this stuff. I'm having to be real careful with that throttle though. Like, I'm driving it with millimeters of twist. I don't see this being a good beginner's bike if you're on a dual sport, because I'm driving that throttle almost like I would my Super Duke 1290 when I had it. I just barely would crack that throttle. You rode it with millimeters of throttle, not a lot of twist. Something that I like is the neutral light. That's a nice feature. I also like that since I idled this bike up, it has not flamed out. Now, I haven't been doing overly technical stuff today, although some. And it hasn't flamed out since I idled it up, and I barely idled it up. I idled it up maybe, I don't know, 100 or 200 RPM. I think I'm in the recommended range anyway now, like 800 to 1900 RPM, which if you buy a fuel controller from someone, that's what they recommend setting it at. So, but yeah, so another trail here. Yeah, it's feeling good. These golden tires are awesome on this stuff. I know I sound like a golden tire commercial, but I have no affiliation with them. The frame is a little harsher than my Husky. I could tell people talked about the frame, and I was like, what are they talking about? Well, it's just a rigid feel. It's not a bad feel. It's just there's a certain amount of rigidity to it that I think you can play around with the torque specs of the bolts. I'll probably do some of that. There's also engine hanger holders that you can change out, but I might fiddle with adjusting some of those torque bolt specs. Oh, that fell off that. So yeah, just going through some rocks. And I am slipping my clutch. Whoa. Okay, yeah, woo. So what happened there? Well, I let off the throttle and the compression of the bike, threw me over the handlebars a little bit. And so that's the other thing that a fuel controller can fix is making it to where it's not such an on-off switch. Right now it is kind of an on-off switch. I let off the throttle and, I went over the bars a little. My other bikes don't do that quite as much. So here we are riding some single track or trails, and feels good. Second gear, I'm just tootling along and the bike feels very good. Probably eventually get these bars up a little bit. Now with the bike's flickable, I can change my line if I need to. But I can feel a little bit of the weight now and then. Like if I need to change the line last minute. Engine's still staying cool. Just kind of slowing down to see how trying to idle over these rocks how it would do if it flames out. No? You nudge up to a rock and... Huh, yeah, no, it's doing better than I thought it would. Just kind of tootling along. Suspension is good. Just being a little cautious up here because there's so much wind. There's a lot of down debris, and I don't want to hit like come around a corner and have a log. Man, see there, I needed to loft that front end in the ground, or off the ground, to get over an obstacle, and it just no problem. A little twist of the throttle and off you go. Yeah, no, it's great. Torque on demand, any gear you want to be in. Very nice. And the suspension, I have not bottomed it out yet on anything. I'm not even close. The suspension is very good. With a little change in mapping or the G2 throttle tamer, I could see where this would be a really good bike, like become like a favorite. But I guess what I like about this bike is you can run it on the highway, but you can still do this stuff on the technical side. So there's not a lot of bikes that you could do that with, but this one you definitely can. That's pretty awesome. Logging road, look at all the debris that's fallen down up here with all the high winds. But point I was going to make is this bike's nice to chug around on a logging road. I'm just kind of, chugging around. I didn't think it'd be such a good thing to kind of putt around with. But it actually is. So it's definitely possible. Oh yeah, there's a hill climb that I like to do. Man, there's so much debris down. Hopefully there's nothing down on this hill climb. This one's out of Skidder Flats, and it's challenging on any bike. So I wanted to try it on this bike. I already got some down stuff. So there I am jumping over a log on an uphill climb. There's ruts and roots. And a Widowmaker that's falling right there. Jeez, right in the middle of the trail. Okay, we're gonna get on some throttle here. Slipping the clutch. First gear seems to be really nice. Keeping my speed up. Man, this is not giving me any trouble. Oh, I'm in the rut. Oh, there we go. Chugged out. Well, that's the way it goes. I wouldn't mind staying on the uphill side of that rut, but I don't know if I'm gonna. These roots prevent you from getting on the left side of the rut. The right. Let's try something different. I'm on tree branches. Jeez. This is steep. Okay. Got myself in a predicament and I didn't even know it. We're gonna have to back down this further. There we got branches stuck in the bike and everything else. This is just steep enough to be a hassle. Oh, jeez. We got problems. We got like a branch trying to go through this fork. Had no idea that was even there. Yeah, that's got to come out. Okay, we'll tune back in. I got to get this branch out. The stick pulled out, didn't break anything, so that's Honda quality right there. In fact, it didn't rip a line off. Okay, this is steeper than you'd think, but I'm going to try a different line. I don't know if there's going to be any different result, but I'm going to try it. See if we can get this bike moving. Come on, baby. Putting the golden tires to the test. I'm going to take the right side of that. See if I can... Oh, there's no way. Nope, I'm in the rut. Jeez. This is tough. Okay, well, thankfully this has enough ground clearance to where the bike's okay. Yeah, this is another flame out. So when you get really technical, your bike's getting hot. See if I can get this bike moving again. Okay, baby. There we go. Now it's moving. Okay, well, I won't say that was fun. But got through it. Yeah, well, that was rutted, the whole works, and I just made the ruts worse, so that's the way it goes. Okay, there's a little uphill section up here that I always do, and I want to see how it goes. I don't know if the video is going to show this, but it's just uphill. Wouldn't say it's crazy technical, but you can't daydream on it or you'll have trouble. Keeping my speed up better this time, and that's helping. Yep, doing good. No flame outs. That was first gear. Felt good for that. Okay, we got another little plateau here and another hill climb. This one's reasonably technical. Keeping my speed going. Don't want to feather in the clutch around the corner. Getting the speed up, getting the speed up, getting the speed up, getting the speed going. Keep it going. Okay, not bad, it's salvageable. Woo. Okay. We're on a hill climb here. That's where the weight. Just keep my speed up, keep the bike moving, and then hit a bump, unsettled the bike, and had to deal with that. But usually I get up pretty good. So this weight is becoming a factor in this technical stuff. Can I get the bike going again? I like that it has a kill button here. I think so, but I don't know so. Come on, baby. Come on. Ooh. Golden tires for the win. I know it's hard to tell on video what that looked like, but it's steep. Maybe this will show it. Not horribly steep, but it's reasonably steep. Okay, well, there you have it. The bike's able to do it, but you have to keep it moving. That's where the weight works against you. 350, I'm able to get up that a little bit easier. Which is why I thought about on this, and the bike did great. I did feel the weight of the bike a little. And I will say that is easier on a 350 or my 2-stroke, 300 2-stroke, but you know what? I wanted to see how it did, and it got me up them, so. I like that it has this little kill switch here that you can hit, because I did use that a couple times when I needed to kill the bike to sort out what I had going on. So the bike did it. Does the trails. I can do the hard stuff, I can do the easy stuff. Probably get a flame out now and then. But most of the time when it did that, I was to blame. I wasn't keeping my RPMs up, but it does stall. Yeah, it does have that tendency, but it's not anything I couldn't live with. I'm already learning how to deal with it and kind of know when it's going to do it. Single track here, trails. This bike's doing great. Down tree there. Let's go. Flame out. There's where it gets you. Flamed out, and then you fall over. Okay, well, there you have it. It does like to do that. Flame out, fall over. Yeah, okay, well, have to be more careful of that. Okay, well, start the bike. Here's a little log obstacle here. How are we gonna do? Wow, what is going on there? Oh, I got over those two and then it flamed out. Yeah, it takes some getting used to. I know a flywheel would help, a map could help, but it does. Now that I'm on the trails and the bike's getting hot, the problem seems to be getting a little worse. I feel like I was adjusting that throttle pretty good and feathering the clutch when it flamed out like that. So compared to like that hill I just went up, and I'm gonna have to go over those logs again. So we'll see if with a little learning, if I can keep this bike from flaming out over that. And now that I'm fighting the weight of the bike up here, I am getting tired. So that's where the weight is starting to get me. But I could do it now and then and do fine, but the weight, turning the bike around and doing all the things I've been doing today, it's starting to fatigue me a little bit compared to on a lighter bike. And today's conditions aren't easy riding conditions. It's wet, sloppy, lots of down trees. Okay, let's see if we can do this obstacle a little better this time. Maybe I'll just go for one log instead of two. So one log obstacle was fine, but you could hear I was being real revvy with the throttle and slipping the clutch so that it didn't flame out. But I did get through it. Took a different line, so I just did one log instead of two. Yeah, the more I speed up on the bike, the better it feels, but the slower I go, the more I feel the weight. But it does feel pretty flowy as long as I keep the bike moving. But again though, what's cool about this bike is it does give you a little platform which you can make it more dirt bikey or more enduro, go more towards the enduro side of things, so you can go either way. Okay, well, I have to admit it's nice to be back to a trail, or excuse me, to pavement, where we can just relax a little bit. Shines on the highway. I am so comfortable just cruising along, going to some corners, gearing's high enough to be comfortable, so that's pretty amazing. This bike can do nasty trails today up in the mountains, and now I'm cruising home on the highway and very comfortable. That's great. Not every bike can do that. Coming into the sweeper corner, drop to 5th, and just accelerates out back to 6th, and it just wants to go. Very, very nice. One more point that needs to be made is the fact I could go out, beat this thing up and down trails, down the highway, down gravel roads, come back, just inspected the bike, nothing's falling off, nothing's loose, nothing's broken. I had branches rammed up between the forks by the ABS lines, brake lines, everything is perfectly fine. So this bike that's what I'm trying to say, it's well thought out, it's well built, it's definitely a good solid bike.